Welcome to Bed Crime Stories Podcast. I'm your host, T. I have a cold, and that's why I sound so weird. I hope you're having a great day. If not, go out and get you a caramel brulee latte. That's a cure for everything, in my opinion. Okay, well, I have been chatting with Crystal Wright. Crystal Wright is Anna Kepner's aunt, her biological aunt. Crystal is the sister of Heather. Heather is Anna's biological mother. And I'm going to read you what Crystal shared with me. I've been trying to understand who Chris Kepner really is. What is this man like? He's been married 3 times. That may not mean anything, but it might be important. So I'm going to read you now what Crystal wrote. This is verbatim. Let's get started. Oh, before I do that, please do me a favor, subscribe to my channel, leave me a comment. Those are 2 free ways you can help support my channel. Open quotes, here we go. Well, there's a reason he's on his 3rd wife. When he was married to my sister, first wife, that would be Heather, she discovered the affair he was having with their 15-year-old babysitter when Anna was around 3 to 4 years old. That absolutely ruined Heather. See, Heather moved to San Diego to live with me as soon as she turned 18. A couple of months later, we moved to Bremerton, Washington, where after a couple of months of living there, she met Chris. And 1 week, maybe 2 weeks later, she was going with him back to Florida. They had been married close to 10 years or so when she found out about his affair. Our mom flew herself, my oldest son, and I out to visit Heather in November of 2011. Heather's birthday is the 23rd of November. Mine is the 25th. And that year, Thanksgiving was on the 24th. So we were all really excited to see each other because I hadn't seen Heather since she moved to Florida some 5 or 6 years earlier. While there, I witnessed Chris treat her like trash. He didn't allow her to take time off while we were there because she had to make the money to pay back his mom for the loan she'd given Heather to go through beauty school. Whatever Chris told her to do, he expected her to keep a full-time job. She was to keep the house spotless. And then when Anna was born, she had to take care of all her needs as well. On Thanksgiving Day, our mom, Heather, and myself got up early to start preparing for the day with all the cooking and detailed cleaning because Chris had invited some friends to join us at the last minute. Chris and his brother sat outside tending to the turkey in the fryer. They basically just sat there all day drinking. Dinner was served, everyone ate. Heather, being the first to finish, and instantly started the cleanup. Mom and then myself finish and proceeded with helping Heather. Chris and his group of friends got up and went outside. Didn't even bring a dish to the sink. A while later, I stepped out to smoke and was followed shortly behind by Mom. Heather finished the last of the dishes and then too stepped out to smoke. Chris instantly started in on my sister, telling her she couldn't do anything right, even when they had company over. Mom and myself were completely baffled because the house was spotless and Heather did all of the dishes. Well, it turned out the reason Chris was breaking her down was because the turkey was on the stove still. That MFer was cooling down still. I had had enough at that point, and so I started in on him. Then absolutely embarrassed him in front of all his friends and showed him that he wasn't as much of a man as he was portraying. After that, he kept his mouth closed. So, needless to say, I've never actually liked the guy. Anyway, Heather's world was turned upside down with the discovery of the affair, and she filed for divorce. Every bit of Heather's sense of security, her stability, and only support she had there was Chris and his parents. And once she filed for divorce, it all vanished overnight. She had been made to feel like she wasn't important, that she was a failure and would never amount to anything. And I guess the only people that were trying to help her there were people making their own poor choices and self-medicating their own pains. Heather only ever led me to believe that she was doing great without Chris. It wasn't until she moved to Oklahoma that I found out Anna wasn't with her and felt that Heather was possibly doing some kind of drugs. Our other two sisters and myself had thought she was taking pills not prescribed to her. It wasn't until a few months back that I felt like she was doing a little more than we expected. So she's still dealing with the devastation of the affair when her worst nightmare was found on Google. Let me just interject here. She found out that Anna had passed away on Google, by the way. So Chris married the 15-year-old babysitter, and that's who was allowed to raise Anna. Heather was pushed out and frowned upon the moment she filed for divorce. Well, the second one didn't last as long as the first, and the second wife, Tabitha, told Heather the only reason she stayed with Chris as long as she did was because she feared for Anna. She didn't elaborate on it, just that she feared for her. So now he's on his third wife or whatever. We still aren't sure if they're actually married or both still in the process of divorce, but living together and playing house. Doesn't matter. They had only known each other for about a year, which was the same time they were living together, creating an uncomfortable living situation for Anna. But I can only imagine that none of the kids were as happy as they were made to look. The one picture with all of them creeps me out. There's Chris and Anna in a family photo with Chantel and her kids, but I think the two boys look kind of removed from the rest, as if they were outsiders to the family huddled next to them. Yeah, I've never liked Chris. I will always blame him for putting Anna in a situation that caused her death. Chris knew that there were issues with Anna and the boy, and I'm assuming by the boy, Crystal is referring to the 16-year-old stepbrother. I'll call him TH. Anna was to the point that she was staying at friends' houses more than at her own home, but Chris has an idea to take them on a cruise where there's a ton of people with noise to drown out noise. Noise on a cruise Anna didn't want to be on because the boy was on it as well. But wait, not only does she have to go on a cruise with the boy she had made it very clear she was uncomfortable with, but hey, guess what? Chris wasn't worried about that. He wants to put on a fake show with his fake wife and kids for everyone to see. So in his careless find that's filled with thoughts of his new family, BS, he decides to put Anna in the same room, the same private space as his ill-tempered stepson. Why, you ask? Because they were old enough to sort it out themselves. Unfortunately, Chris didn't teach Anna how to sort things out like the boy was taught. End quote. So I have to thank Crystal for being so articulate and explaining it so beautifully. And my heart goes out to Heather. As some of you guys may know, my own brother struggled with addiction issues for a good part of his life. Addiction issues that went untreated. He was never in rehab. And as a grief therapist said to me recently, addictions don't just start. People with addictions are covering some sort of pain. They are self-medicating because of some pain or trauma that they've experienced. So I'm not here to judge Heather. My heart 100% goes out to her. My heart goes out to Crystal as well. And I'm sorry, but Chris Kepner sounds like a complete asshole. And I know there are always two sides to every story, sometimes three sides or more. But so far, we haven't seen great choices out of Chris Kepner. To me, it was an utter failure to put Anna in that private cabin with a 16-year-old stepbrother that she barely knew, a stepbrother that Crystal describes as ill-tempered. The grandmother has also intimated that this boy had problems, and we know that he was obsessed with Anna. So there's absolutely no good reason to put them together alone in a cabin, even if her brother was with them for part of that time. So I apologize for my raspy voice, but I wanted to share this with you because I so appreciate Crystal getting back to us, to me, answering my questions about Chris Kepner, trying to explain why this man who's relatively young has been married 3 times. Now, sometimes people are married 3 times and it's not indicative of anything being wrong with them. But in this case, I think there's something to it. A guy who has an affair with a 15-year-old babysitter. That's what you call a pedophile. She was underage. She was a minor. So let's not put a fancy shine on Chris Kepner. Let's call it like it is. I suspect that Heather would have been the right choice to be the parent to Anna. And I suspect if she hadn't had her spirit completely broken by Chris Kepner and his family, that she may not have turned to drugs. Heather, if you hear this, I see you, I feel you. My heart goes out to you. Please do whatever you can to help yourself. I lost my brother recently. In July, he died. And it has left me absolutely heartbroken. So please do everything you can to spare your mother and your sister that level of heartbreak. You're worth it. Take care of yourself. I know it's going to be challenging with what you're dealing with, but please, please hear me and take care of yourself. I love you guys. Have a great day. Let me know what you think in the comments. Please like, share, and subscribe. And if you want to support the work I do, please consider a Patreon membership. I am not currently monetized, and I haven't been for about 6 months, which means I make 0 money except on Patreon memberships. Well, I know what you're thinking. I'm not whining. I'm just letting you know. Love you guys. Have a great day. Bye.